Hello and welcome back. We will now be passing you over to Heathrow. We've got Ben and Mo coming to discuss about how their technology and automation had supported their COVID-19 response.
That's great. Thank you very much, Ryan. And hello, everybody. Delighted to be able to speak to you today. Just talking to Ben earlier, it was about a year since we last spoke at the Robotics Society presentation. Of course, in the current times, it means we've got to speak to you remotely. My name is Ben Wagner. I work at Heathrow Airport as an innovation architect. Our team's role is to help solve business challenges through running trials of new and emerging technology. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is just some of the tactics we've been involved in that use technology as part of the COVID-19 response. And there's also a drop of automation in there as well. So to begin with, this year has been completely unprecedented in aviation, as I'm sure you're all well aware. At its peak, we've seen passenger traffic down as much as 92% on 2019 levels. I think across the whole year, it's something like 82%. And we've been doing quite a lot of things to, in terms of response of COVID-19, a lot of work with government. You'll have seen things in the press and the media where we've been trying to work on changes to legislation and things in order to try and just build some bridges literally with other countries that we can connect to. But we've also been thinking a lot about the passenger experience with respect to COVID-19 and about keeping both passengers and indeed staff safe. And these are some things I'm going to be able to detail to you this afternoon. So the first of them is a piece of technology around thermal screening. And in the early part of the pandemic, you may recall that this was mentioned in the news a lot. And indeed, you may have been in and out of some buildings where you've had your temperature checked. We partnered some vendors that have got their own thermal screening technology. And in the simplest way, it just provides an infrared display of people walking by. And the idea is that we could detect elevated body temperature, which in the early days of the pandemic was considered to be a marker of coronavirus symptoms. I think our understanding globally has moved on a lot since then, but nonetheless, this was quite effective, and we did some secondary tests with another airport in the US to find out the accuracy of the technology, and we found that on average there's only about 1 Fahrenheit difference between actual temperature and what the display showed us. There was something else that we got from this as well, and when we spoke to passengers, they felt some reassurance about seeing this, because if you look at the photos, the kit is quite imposing in some ways, with things pointing at you and so on. And the only other thing to note is if you look at the main image there in the middle, the camera, this particular one has actually got a sensor that provides us a heat signature at a steady 35 degrees centigrade, and the camera on the other side looks at this and the wider field of vision, and it's able to use that to calibrate the exact body temperature of people coming through. And we had challenges with people wearing full facial masks and things like this, but nonetheless, it was quite an interesting pilot, and the government come to visit it as well. We've also done some things around the passenger journey. So we've thought about every step of the way through the airport and actually what part of our infrastructure passengers interact with. And one of these are our common use self-service or CUSS kiosks. And these are the devices that you may come to do your check-in, or you can do a self-bag drop, as it's called. So instead of going to see an agent, you can actually put a bag tag on yourself and put it into the system. Traditionally, we've just used normal kiosks with touchscreen processes, but our partners ICM, who developed them, approached us and said they developed a screen mirroring solution that uses a web app. And as you can see from the screenshot on the upper left there, they scan a QR code, it takes you to the web app. And as you complete the process, the kiosk stays in pace with you. So every step of the way, the screen changes, you can print your tag and hand it out, and away you go. We've also done some surveys with some of the passengers who quite like this. This isn't the sort of technology that's suddenly going to get people booking flights again, but again, it feeds that feeling that we have that we just want to keep people safe and secure in the terminals. So we've just been rolling this out into Terminal 2 and Terminal 5 at the moment. And staying on the kiosks, we've also worked with another partner to develop a UVC sanitization cleaner. If you're not aware, UVC, this type of light, is good at killing bacteria and other bugs. even in quite small doses. And we work with a partner to develop a piece of hardware that actually sits on top of the screen, and a bar slides across with the UVC LEDs behind it, so they can actually clean the screen after each use. And what you can see in the bigger pictures there are the mats on the ground that we use to detect when someone is in front of the kiosk, and therefore it would stop the UVC cleaning process from beginning. And again, because this is a trial, we can evolve it, and we found that the mats weren't working that well for us. They could be a little bit unreliable. So we've since updated it already to have an infrared scanner. So we've both got UV, ultraviolet light, and infrared on them. And what it does is it detects some presence, and when someone's in front of it, the cleaner stays parked, and then it can clean in between usage. We had some really positive feedback from this from passengers. They felt they really liked it. It was reassuring. There's quite an amazing level of awareness around UVC and its benefits. So we're hoping to just expand this a little bit more with support of our airlines. We've also looked at other aspects of the journey, maybe less so directly with COVID, but with running some trials with mobile passenger signage. This is actually something we've done at the airport before. We developed our own mobile signage systems, but these are broadly battery-powered, fully mobile screens that can be wheeled around the airport and tactically positioned. At Heathrow, we consider contingency in two ways. We have planned contingency. So, for example, if we know there's going to be a lot of snowfall the next day, or maybe a planned strike or something, there's a lot we can get ready in advance, and we can use these screens. And then we have unplanned contingency, and this is where something suddenly goes wrong. We might have a power cut or a network outage, that kind of thing. And again, these screens can be used to make passengers aware of any changes. We also know from our studies, talking to passengers, that when things are going wrong, what they need is information, and these screens help us provide that. We've got a lot of signage in place, as you can imagine, with COVID. So at the present, this particular screen in the main picture is in T2, helping provide that information. And the smaller image on the left is a separate trial with an e-ink display. The advantage of this is the longer battery life. It runs for up to 30 days. And in fact, if the battery fails, the screen stays in its current state. It only needs and draws power when the screen changes. So we can leave these running for hours, and if they're plugged in, days on end as well. Then just touching on a little bit of automation. I wish there's more I could show in this space, but we have been using more cleaning technology with robotics. We already have automated robotic cleaners that we can use during operational hours when passengers are around. They have collision detection facilities on them, and they just move up and down and clean the floor. But this particular robot has, as you can see, some very large UVC. Again, the type of technology that can clean and or kill off bacteria. But these are in larger tubes, and there's a lot more power. The wattage, I think the power requirement on this is a lot higher, and therefore has a greater cleaning ability. And what these do is, again, using that same collision detection, it has a wayfinding solution, and it can move around inside toilets, as it's shown here, or in office spaces and other public areas. The downside of this is that UVC is quite dangerous to people, so we can't use it during the operational day. So this particular photo was taken at night time when our terminals are typically closed. Otherwise, we would be able to run them a little bit more often. But despite the effectiveness of it, it's not something we can use continually and all the time. We've also done a couple other bits using technology, but a little bit further away from that. With I mentioned legislation and government involvement. One of the problems we've had, and what's limited our traffic, is that actually, even if we wanted to and we could keep everybody safe, you can't legally fly into different destinations. In the UK, at least, the Foreign Office guidance prevents a lot of that. So we've also been working with partners such as IATA and other more global agencies to look at what other solutions we could potentially implement or support. And one of these is called Common Pass. And it's the idea of a digital health passport that could record your COVID results, such as you travel to another country, you can show the result as proof that one took place. So the way this works is that you complete a test in your country of origin. that gets loaded onto the passport, and then when you arrive in the destination, you can show that you've had the test, rather than say a piece of paper or something which could easily be forged and so on. But the idea of Common Pass is that this could be checked. In October, we were able to work with Common Pass to arrange a demonstration flight between Heathrow and Newark in the US, where some guys come across and they showed how they'd completed the test in Newark, and then they did one in Heathrow and had that added to the passport as well. Longer term, we know obviously vaccines are coming and things, but proof that either you've had a vaccine or you've had a COVID test may still be important, and there's a lot of interest in this as well. And then finally, we've opened a COVID-19 testing facility in both Terminal 2 and Terminal 5. And again, this is something in between. If you look at the simplest COVID tactics, which is around face coverings, keeping your hands clean and giving people space. And then at the other end of the scale, we have vaccines hopefully coming. In the middle is testing, which keeps everyone safe and just shows that you're able to fly and travel. Some countries have this as a prerequisite, but what we did is lobbied government quite hard to be able to do this. And in fact, this week, we're delighted to announce that we can provide a test and release scheme for arriving passengers. But the idea again is that you would complete a test with a quick turnaround. The one we have will give you a result in about 60 minutes. It does cost £80, but that enables you to fly. And with a negative result, you'll be able to board. And the result comes as a piece of paper as well, which you can use in your destination airport. We partnered Hong Kong Airport initially with this. And we're lucky in a way because they have huge presence on the international aviation stage. And it was quite a useful tie-up for us because other airports have now been in touch with us and other countries are interested in this. And the idea is that you could complete a test on departure, potentially one on arrival as well, and then another test a few days later to avoid some of the quarantine measures. And then it opens up a lot of leisure travel, potentially business travel as well. So we've been investing a lot of time in this. Again, passengers really like it. Some of our surveys showed that despite the cost, people are willing to pay for this. It's worth it for them, and hopefully will enable some more travel in the short term as again the vaccines start to come in. So that's all I had for you guys. I think next we're going to hand over to Mo and look at another video with what he's been involved in, but then I'd be happy to take any questions.
Hi, my name is Mohammed and I'm on the engineering graduate program at Heathrow Airport. Only 2 or 3 years ago, I was in a very similar situation to what you guys are in. I was at university, I was studying aerospace engineering, not just any university, I was on the exact same university you guys are in at Brunel. And now I work as an engineer in literally the busiest airport in the UK, and it is an amazing experience because I really get to go behind the scenes and see what makes this amazingly complex place work. Now, on the graduate program, you get to go from one department to another. So I've been everywhere from the runway and looking after the runway lights to terminal buildings and looking at how the terminals are managed from an engineering perspective. But the most place that caught my attention was the baggage system. So the baggage system really caught my attention because it was such a complex environment. But not only was it complex, it was a system. One part fed into another, and if one thing went down and if one thing failed, it was going to have a direct impact on another part of the system. So everything had to work coherently, everything had to sort of fit together like pieces of a puzzle to make sure that your bag makes it from A to B. And I really enjoyed thinking about that challenge because, you know what, when people give you their bag, when you're at an airport and you hand over your bag to the person on the other side of the check-in desk, you expect it to be there. There is this expectation from passengers to arrive at their destination and their bag is going to be there. Nobody really wants to get there and their bag isn't there because the implications of that, I mean, think about it. Imagine getting to your destination and your bag isn't there. It's going to ruin your holiday. Simply put, it's going to ruin your holiday. While working in the baggage system, I felt that responsibility of these are people's holidays that are on the line here. With everything that I could do, I could be saving a holiday or I could be ruining a holiday. And when you see the throughput of bags, you have bag after bag after bag after bag. You have thousands and hundreds of thousands of bags per day coming through the baggage system. Mechanical processes and actually having a human being there makes it very inefficient. You want to be able to use the principles of automation to be able to really minimize the input that you have to put as an engineer and as a worker there. You don't want to be there, you know, manipulating bags to make sure they get on their plane. You want the system to be automated so that you can just step back and only intervene when something goes wrong. So that principle of automation is really applicable to the baggage system, because you never really want to intervene because the throughput of bags is so high. So one thing that I noticed while walking through the baggage system is that somebody had designed something called a baggage toppler. Now, what a baggage toppler is it's like a... So while editing this video, I decided that rather than just talk to you and blab on about the baggage toppler, why not show you it in action? So ITV on Heathrow, Britain's busiest airport, actually followed me while installing this baggage toppler, and the next clip that you're going to see is going to be stolen directly from ITV, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut in at certain moments and talk to you more about the process that went on behind the scenes. So enjoy.
Today Heathrow will need to process 150,000 pieces of departing luggage. And before making its way to the correct plane, each bag is sorted and screened for security by a sophisticated automated handling system. It's here that trainee engineer Mo has spotted an issue that's detrimental to departure times.
Right now we're in Terminal 2, and we are literally directly underneath check-in. Now if you check your bag, and it literally disappears behind a curtain, that curtain leads to a hoist. The hoist brings the bags down and it spits them out onto what we call a collector belt. When a bag is approaching an X-ray, if it's stood upright, then it won't fit through the X-ray machine. So that sends off an alarm. Someone has to come down, push it over, and then it goes through the X-ray machine. That wastes precious minutes.
To remedy the problem, Heathrow installed a piece of kit under the conveyor belts, aptly named a baggage toppler.
So as the bags get checked in and they swing round here, they encounter this speed bump. It just gives it that rocking motion, and that rocking motion will tip it over.
Despite doing what it says on the tin, this toppler has only been 75% effective, and Mo thinks he has a solution to get that percentage up to 100.
If you take a closer look, you'll see that it's not actually sharp on the top. I thought to myself, you know what, I think that is what is making all the difference. And I'm looking at it and I can understand the physics as to why that 40% of the bags isn't toppling over. And those are principles that I learned in my engineering degree at Brunel. Things like angular momentum, things like just inertia and how you can create an angular velocity on an object. All these sort of simple principles that you learn in an engineering degree, I could see being played out right in front of my eyes in a real world situation. So I went back to the drawing board and I started to do some calculations to think, how can I improve this design for this baggage toppler to make it more effective? Once I designed the new design, I actually was able to, just using maths, prove that this new design was going to be 3.5 times more effective at toppling bags than the old one. So I went back to the drawing board, I redesigned it, and now, hopefully, it is much more effective than this one here. This is the old one, it's got a flat top, but this one is just that little bit higher and it's got a round top here. And that little tiny difference is what can literally be the difference between a bag making it onto the flight and not making it onto the flight.
Mo's new design, Baggage Toppler 2.0, may not look all that different to the original one, but the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and first the pudding needs to be put together.
Out with the old, in with the new.
To make a successful toppler, you will need the following ingredients: 50 kilograms of hard metal, 2 handymen.
How you doing, you alright? Yeah, good.
And a dash of enthusiasm.
I'm absolutely buzzing, I'm so excited.
The first step is to prepare your base by removing any excess waste.
HA1? No way. I live in HA0. It's basically my neighbor.
Step 2, add your metal to the mix. Step 3, dish out a good dollop of drilling. And step 4, allow it to settle until it reaches room temperature or is cool to the touch.
It's unbelievable. I mean, we're in Heathrow Airport and my design is inside the system. It's unbelievable. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. We're going to grab a few of these test bags, we're going to put them on the system, and then we're going to see if the toppler does what it says on the tin. The maths adds up. I trust maths. So
If baggage toppler 2.0 fails this test, it'll be back to the drawing board for Mo.
I'm confident. I'm confident it will fly over. Moment of truth. All right, here it comes. Yes!
And to prove the first one wasn't a fluke...
All right, let's go, let's go, let's go. There you go. Perfect, perfect.
It looks like baggage toppler 2.0 is here to stay.
This one so far is doing 100%. That's more bags on planes. That's more happy passengers. I'm so happy. I can't wait to put this in every terminal now. In the world? In the world. Every airport will know. The maths added up when I was doing the calculations, and then when we put it into the system, everything stacked up. Bags were being flipped over much more efficiently. The reason why I tell you this story is I want to show you that actually robotics and technology and all that sort of stuff is great. But the simple principles of automation is what is key when you want to apply it to a situation. Very, very important thing to remember is that you don't want a human being to be involved in an operation. You want to be able to look away, forget it exists, and this thing will just churn, and give you the output that you want. This mindset of automation is what you should be.
Sorry about that. Welcome back. So just one of the beautiful wonders of working with live streams and live technology. But Mo will be taking it up right from where we left off, just before heading into the Q&A session.
Yeah, so fantastic. So in that video that you were seeing, that was actually us installing the baggage toppler into the system. And one thing that I really want to sort of iterate for all the students and the people who are working is when you're going to be joining companies in the real world, you're going to see that actually all the great technology that you're seeing at university, a lot of it doesn't exist in the real world, and they actually want the minds of the next generation to be there to instill that technology in there. So that's one thing that I noticed when I was in the baggage system is there was some things that could have been done better, and I was there to do it better. So please, like, keep working hard while you're in uni to really understand what your strengths are, so that when you join the real world, you can really provide those strengths. My strengths are problem solving, and that's what I work with, and that's what I love to work with. So that baggage toppler was me just trying to solve a problem in the real world, and how can I remove the human element? So every time the baggage toppler failed, that caused the human being to have to go walk down to the area where the X-ray machine was, push the bag over, and then that was wasting precious minutes. So by improving the automation process, we're able to remove the human being once again, and that is the essence of automation, getting rid of the human being from any process that you're doing. So the more you can do that in a workplace, the more money you save, the more time you save, and the more future geared you are, and the more future-proof you are as an organization.
Thank you very much. So we will now be going into a quick intermission before breaking to the Q&A with Ben and Mo. Hello and welcome back. Thanks for staying with us today. We really hope you're enjoying the exposition we've got on. So I've now got Ben and Mo with me to answer some of your questions and our questions. So if you haven't had time already, make sure to put them in the chat. I will be checking them. But I will start with a question, which is, what technologies which you have implemented due to COVID are you happy to have implemented moving forwards, even outside of COVID times?
That's a good one. I can field that one unless Mo wants to jump in. I think some of the touchless technology will be staying around in the airport. If you think about it, beyond COVID, if we imagine 1 or 2 years ahead, people are going to be more aware than ever of things like social distancing, avoiding touching things, expect personal hygiene to really improve as well, people washing hands all the time and everything. I think it's just going to be ingrained. And so because of that, we expect that passengers will probably reconsider parts of their journey and their actions where they might have to touch something. So some of the touchless investment definitely, and the UVC cleaning as well. That's just really useful, just kills all bugs and so on. Can't see why we wouldn't persist with it really. Mo, I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
I mean, that was your area of expertise, so I think you covered all. You've spent a lot more time thinking about the COVID technology than I have.
My next question is sort of relevant to that, which is considering the rigorous safety and reliability standards that you've got with just working in an airport and implementing that level of technology, what challenges did you face when developing and implementing what you have done due to the COVID response?
Yeah, that's a good one, Ryan. So what we would normally do as part of our innovation process is develop a proof of concept or a pilot first. So we'll put that together, demonstrate it, and that involves input from our health and safety colleagues, some of our frontline colleagues as well, to check it and test it. With some of the COVID coating technology we tried, I didn't mention that in the slides, but something else we've done. We've applied this special coating to things like lift buttons and other surfaces and things. We actually brought in a company to come and test it. And what they do is they, over a period of a few hours, they would isolate an area and put some bugs on it and then ensure that they test it again to make sure they died off and so on. So there is a lot of testing and things. We would also lean on some of our partners to look for certification as well in those areas. And then that concludes the kind of the trial, and then you're moving into a pilot phase, which is where you actually go and roll this out on a small scale, just to check it, make sure it works. Nothing breaks when we do it, everybody's happy, and then you can continue to scale it into a project. It's typically how we do it. It's the most safe way of doing it and the most secure as well.
Fantastic, very, very insightful. My next question is, sorry, let me just quickly go through. What particular technologies have aided the amount of work you've had to do with other airports, considering obviously the COVID response? Because I imagine that a lot of the things that you've been doing haven't just been applying to your airport, but has been relying on things that have been done in other airports and keeping in touch and matching certain standards.
Yeah, again, really insightful question, really, and I'm glad it's been asked, because you're right. A lot of aviation standards are shared throughout the world. What we do within innovation, we have a group called the Innovation Forum. It's a collective of between 40 and 50 airports worldwide, mainly in Europe, I'd say, but we have some in the US and some in the Far East as well. We meet monthly. We just do a simple Zoom call, and in each call we go round and discuss some of the COVID tactics we've been working on. Outside the pandemic, it's normally we check in with, these are some other innovations we're looking at. But what was really useful in the COVID response was to look at some tactics that we had either been working on or considering, and then see how other airports have performed with them. So, for example, there was some technology around handrails. So the escalator handrails that you see, there's a special type of UVC machine that you can bolt underneath it, and as the handrail passes over, the UVC cleans it, so it's constantly cleaning. And we really liked the look of this, and we thought this is quite promising. On the Innovation Forum call, we had some airports in the US who'd given their own feedback on it. Some were quite positive. They told us that one of them told us that their escalator manufacturer didn't recommend it. So that was quite useful. And already you're getting lots of insight then from others, even before you've done something. And I think one other thing to add is that airports, there are some that would naturally compete with one another. So Heathrow in normal times would consider itself a hub airport, and we would compete with other hubs in Europe to win traffic into the continent. But what's been really great with the response to the pandemic is everyone's come together, and they've not been shy in sharing some of that learning and insight, and that's been really invaluable.
Oh, what a beautiful answer, and it's really great to see that kind of thing happen in a time of desperate need, as we've all felt this year. A question that came up just from discussing with you guys during the presentation was, how have the cuts in jobs and the making smaller teams, etc., affected your workflow and affected the results of what you're doing and how it's implemented in the airport?
Yeah, it's been tough. We've had to have a reorganisation a few months into the pandemic, and we have lost a lot of talent. There's no denying that. A lot of really great, skilled people have left. What we've done is reorganised ourselves, mainly to not just take advantage of the fact there's a lot of a period of quieter time, but also to look for the future as well. Heathrow's traditionally had quite a high cost base, and we've looked to try and reduce that. We've taken other opportunities to take advantage of the quieter time. So even down to surfacing our southern runway, that's something we would have to do over many months of nighttime works and things, but we've been able to get it done within about a month because we were able to operate from just one runway. So there are some advantages you can take. In terms of looking forward with our workflow, I think the real issue, we can always partner people. We've always been able to do that. The real challenge is that because we are still losing money, our capital plans, our investment plans that we put into the airport, where that's either a new baggage system or upgrades to terminals, other new technology, it's going to be harder to source that funding for some time, I think. We can still do things within our innovation function in terms of trials to show the benefit of technology and other types of automation, but it will be hard to bring that in future. I don't know, Mo, how does it look from your side?
So that I definitely can sort of mirror what Ben said about smaller teams, and there are more challenges. But I think what I've noticed is that actually we're starting to lean into people's strengths more. So we've been able to realign the organization in a way where people are able to really lean into their strengths and show their strengths and their talents, so that even with a smaller team, we can get the same results, and if not even better results, just by utilizing more of the talent that we have within the teams. And it's also given people an opportunity to learn more and grow more. So when there was certain people who were the sort of pinnacle of all knowledge in a certain area and they've left, now you have younger talent who are trying to fill those shoes and learning more and really become those subject matter experts in that area. So it has been, it's given positives to the next generation coming in as well.
It's a really, really great way of looking at it. My next question is from the YouTube chat. We have someone who asked, you mentioned using automation to improve efficiency. Do you feel like there's a lot of scope remaining in the current processes at Heathrow for automation to be introduced, or will new processes be completely developed from scratch?
Yeah, I think there is. Automation is something that the airport had even as a program until before the pandemic. We've been looking at driverless vehicles, autonomous tugs, and various other types of programs which can actually improve some of the safety. At its heart, in everything Heathrow does, every single process, every person that works there, safety and security is imbued in it. It's not just, hey, this is really important. It's in everything we do. And if you look at certain areas of the airport, and again, I'll bring Mo in a sec, around baggage and also in airside areas, the airside areas are where the planes basically live, and all the runways, taxiways. These are dangerous places. People hurt themselves. And although we've done as much as we possibly can, and we will keep doing other things to try and mitigate those risks and keep people safe, the truth is, if you can take people out of those scenarios, you take the human out of the loop, so to speak, then you just make it safer. And people go home to their families every day, and that sort of thing. So with driverless vehicle technology, that's one aspect of it. We do have RTCs and things in the terminal area. We hope to be able to minimise that. Parts of our engineering base as well, there's a lot of sort of back of house systems and things which are quite sort of dangerous. If we can take people away, that's the same. And Mo, there must be, or there are loads in baggage as well, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. So within baggage, there is plenty of scope for automation, and just sort of to sort of really hone in on the question where can you just add to the current process? Do you have to redesign the process? I think there's a bit of a mix of both. It's not that or the other. So one thing that, for example, within the baggage system, there are two elements to the baggage system. So you have the actual in system, which is the system itself, and then you have out of system, which is where the humans come in. And that's when we have people driving those tugs and they're driving it to the actual aircraft. So most collisions and most accidents and most missed bags actually happen in the human element, like Ben said. So the moment you introduce a human being, that's when we're not getting as much efficiency as we can, and also we're also getting the injuries, unfortunately, and potential risks to humans. So by actually introducing automation there, rather than a human being driving the bag to the plane, if a robot was doing it, then we were able to minimize risk and actually be able to make sure that every person that comes to work goes home safely.
Oh, fantastic. Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Thank you so very much for coming and speaking to us today.